Quite a few important world news I'd like to talk about today, and they come from all over the world, from China, America, Turkey, Qatar. But this one particular news, it overshadowed everything else, and I would like to talk much about it. And this is the space. Howdy, howdy, friends. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian, me. Every Wednesday, I give you my takes on important world news as they are seen from Russia. Let's have something different today, friends. I would like to, um, you know, talk a little differently about the news. Um, you see, I usually give you, you know, news that are pretty much similar in weight. And today, I'm overwhelmed by one of them. I am completely overwhelmed. And anyway, that's going to be the last news. Um, let's start um, with the USA and China. You know, let's check this video out and let me know what you think.
明月几时有？把酒问青天。
不知天上宫阙，今夕是何年？
我欲乘风归去，又恐琼楼玉宇，高处不胜寒。
起舞弄清影，何色在人间？
传诸葛，帝其父赵无年。
不应有汉，何事长向？别时圆。
人有悲欢离合，月有阴晴圆缺，此事古难全。
但愿人长久，千里共婵娟。
So, what do you think that was? That is the diplomacy of highest caliber. The embassy of the United States of America and several other countries congratulated the Chinese of the Mid-Autumn holiday, and it's considered very important in China. In my opinion, what you just saw is called diplomacy in its highest form. This is how great countries show their respect to each other by respecting their traditions and cultures. No matter if you like China or dislike or hostile to it or whatever, you gotta respect the country. You gotta respect people, traditions, and their culture. And I salute to the American diplomats and also the diplomats to other countries who congratulated the Chinese and, celebrated this Chinese tradition in China with the Chinese. What about the Russian embassy in China? On the website of the Russian embassy in Beijing, the latest news came on September 13th. And it's about a press conference dedicated to the start of filming of the documentary film called New China. Can anyone please teach Russian diplomats how to do their job? Or better, take them on a tour to the American embassy so they can see how real diplomats do it. Another news comes from Italy. And it's very summertime like news. I'll try to give you the vibes a little bit. In the summertime, when the weather is hot, you can stretch right up and touch the sky. When the weather is fine, you get women on your mind. Have a drink, have a drive, go and see what you can find. Sing along with me, dee 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 dee, dee 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 da 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 da. Yeah, we are happy when the summertime. And sorry about that. I tried my best. When it's summertime, I have this song on my mind all the time. It's a pretty cool song. What is the best place to spend the summertime? Italy, of course. Have you been to Italy? Oh, it's beautiful. It has so many fantastic places. The Alps in the north. Lombardia is absolutely gorgeous. Venice is a must see. Rome, the eternal city. Of course, there is south, Napoli, Amalfi Coast, Positano, Capri. Whew, it's just, I can't visit any of those beautiful places. None of them can be visited by any one of us at Tashkent Breakfast Club, by the Russian nationals, who opposed the war, stood up and left that mad circus, who against the war still speaking up loud, and no, we can't go to Italy because we're Russians. Well, I guess not all Russians are created equal to Italians. Because Italy was the country where Kristina Patupchik spent her summertime in. Kristina Patupchik is a legend. She is the main contractor for creation and distribution of fakes, fake news, fake memes, fake messages in a myriad of Telegram channels owned by Russian propaganda. I will not tell you the details, I'll just Google her and you'll find out everything yourself. She's in charge of Russia's fake news, literally. She is at the very top of the propaganda and close to Putin. She is Dr. Moriarty of Russian fake news, international empire. And she's pure, concentrated evil. And she spent vacationing in Italy. An interesting fact, in a recent interview in Russia, she said that Russians were uncomfortable abroad and she promised she would never travel to Europe. Well, that's what she told to Russian people in an interview. And herself, she turned around and she went straight to Italy for a vacation. Hey, it's summertime. Italians, what's the matter with you? You say you disapprove Russian propaganda, you disapprove Russia attacking Ukraine, killing Ukrainians, and at the same time, you allow Kristina Patupchik into your country? How more double-faced can you be? Us Russian refugees, we don't want to vacate in Italy. We just don't have money and we don't have desire to vacate anywhere. Just give us a passage, a way through, or perhaps a temporary refuge. We will not cause you any troubles. We will not disturb you, okay? And if you don't want us to stay, just give us a passage further. We will not abuse. Instead of that, we are rejected like dogs. And you take Kristina Patupchik and let her vacate in Italy? This is insanity. I don't know what to say. Okay, let's move to the next news. And I call it the frame of the year. It comes from China and it's a business know-how. Chinese company from Wuhan, and that's where CV-19 started spreading from, hired call girls for its employees in order to fire them without compensation. Managers lured employees into nightclubs under the guise of recreation, where the employees got involved in illegal activities such as gambling, sex services, and after that, complaints were filed against these employees, accusing them of violating the law, which allowed the company to fire them without compensation. Again, I call it the frame of the year, the Chinese know how. And another news comes from all powerful, mighty Google itself. Google's future is here. Nevada, the state of Nevada, plans to introduce an AI based system from Google to speed up the processing of appeals for unemployment benefits. Well, fair enough. The AI will analyze the transcripts of hearings, court hearings, and propose solutions. That will be checked by human arbitrators. And that should reduce time and prepare solutions. So the time is planned to be cut from several hours to several minutes per case, I guess. And it will help to cope with cases accumulated after the pandemic. However, experts worry about a decrease in human control and possible AI errors. Google assures that the system will comply with the laws and will not get access to personal data of applicants. Ooh, friends, I am personally scared. Well, I don't live in Nevada and I never filed for unemployment benefits or whatever, you know. But I'm scared. I am experiencing Google AI myself now. I'm still demonetized, and I have this gut feeling that that's AI's work. So imagine their work spreading onto other areas of life. That's darn scary. By the way, I'm still demonetized. There's no news. It's over a month now. Right now, I want to thank you, those of you who helped me out, who sent me emails, words of encouragement, prayed for me and sent prayers and bought me coffees at buymecoffee.com. Sign up to become patrons, sign up to become members, and send funds to PayPal directly. Most of all, those of you who have sent their love. Thank you so much. That's very inspirational, and you have my promise. I will keep on going. I will be talking to you every single day. Thank you, friends. The next news comes from North Korea. It launched another test ballistic missile. North Korea launched a ballistic missile off its east coast, according to South Korea military intelligence. Days after North Korean leader Kim Jong-un vowed to increase his nuclear weapons capability exponentially and prepare his troops for battles, he fired another ballistic missile. I have one question. How does North Korea do that? How do they do that? How do they do that? Research, technology? One question. Is Russia involved anyhow? Let's jump to the next news, and it comes straight from Central Asia. Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkey have agreed on a draft transition to a single alphabet based on Latin letters, Latin alphabet. Now, these countries must approve their national alphabets based on the single alphabet, universal alphabet for the Central Asian country and Turkey. But now, why Turkey? Well, because Turkey is the competitor of Russia in the Central Asia. It has been pushing Russia out. And Turkey is becoming the regional leader, and it's fighting China as well. But hey, Turkey so far is winning. It's pretty powerful. And the Latin alphabet, that's another blow to Russia because some of the countries still use Cyrillic alphabet under influence of Russian language. Well, not anymore. The next news comes from the Great Britain. The British Prime Minister declared his unwillingness to fight with Russia after Vladimir Putin threatened with using nuclear weapons. The British not just Prime Minister, but authorities do not want to get involved in a war with Russia in Ukraine, but intend to support Kyiv's right to self-defense. This is how the Prime Minister responded to the words of Vladimir Putin, who threatened the West if Ukraine would use long-range Western weapons on Russian territory. So if that happened, Vladimir Putin threatened with a nuclear response. We're not looking for any conflict with Russian Federation. That is not in the least a part of our plans. But they started this conflict, meaning Russians, and Ukraine has the right to self-defense, the Prime Minister said. He stressed that Russia is acting illegally and itself can immediately put an end to the conflict. And you know what? He's absolutely right. Very well said, Mr. Prime Minister. The next news comes from America. And it's a sad news, disturbing news, and I don't really know how I can comment it except for now. There was another assassination attempt of Donald Trump, second in the recent time. Donald Trump was a very controversial figure. Some people like him, some people dislike him, but I think it's not a matter of political preferences. It's not a matter of liking or disliking or hating, for that matter, or for loving. This is a matter of Donald Trump is former president of the United States, and I think he, as any former president, demands respect for being president in the past, good or bad. Not for me to decide. I'm not American, and I'm not involved. I'm not a voter in the United States, and I'm not involved in the American politics. But he was the president, okay, and by U.S. Constitution and legislation, he needs to be protected. And the Secret Service fails for the second time in a very recent time. And what is going on? A lot of people don't understand from outside of the United States. Forget about him being Donald Trump, but that's the former president. There were 2 assassination attempts. Now, is anyone going to answer in the Secret Service for that, or what is really going on? So, very odd news. Before I jump to the next news, I'd like to remind you that I cover Russia every day, the world once a week, and my everyday coverage of what's going on in Russia comes in the form of 9 daily news on Patreon, available for patrons. So if you want to know what's going on in Russia, sign up to become a patron, and you will have access to 9 news that matter every day. 54 news every week. Well, let's move to the next news, and it comes from Qatar, a small but very important Middle East state. Qatar is helping Ukraine now. Didn't used to be the case. Qatar was siding with Russia, and it was one of the closest allies of the Kremlin in the Middle East. Qatar recently mediated consultations between Russia and Ukraine in 2024. So it was pretty close to Russia, but it has decided to provide arms supplies to Kiev. According to reports from the Bild, a German magazine, citing inside sources familiar with the situation, Qatar will transfer 24 self-propelled howitzers called PZH 2000 to the armed forces of Ukraine in the deal with the German government. According to the insiders, the Qatar military will transfer half of its available fleet of German-made cannons to the Ukrainian armed forces. In exchange, it will receive new vehicles from Berlin. This includes modern RCH 155 wheeled artillery pieces, which Qatar will acquire as a part of a weapons deal worth total of 100 million euros. And these howitzers will be repaired in Germany before being transferred to Ukraine, according to Bild. They will be updated software. Their software will be updated, and modifications will be made tailored to the needs of the Ukrainian military. And all will be overseen by German defense giants KMW and Rheinmetall. The Russian authorities have repeatedly called Qatar a strategic and key partner of Russia in the Middle East. In 2016, the Qatar Sovereign Wealth Fund acquired almost 20% of Rosneft, Russian largest oil company, belonged to Putin's longtime friend and assistant Igor Sechin. So Qatar acquired 20% of Rosneft shares for $10 billion. It basically saved the Russian economy and the Russian budget from the crisis caused by the sanctions after Russia annexed Crimea. After the deal was concluded, Russian President Vladimir Putin awarded the Order of Friendship to the executive of the Qatar Fund. And that is the director is the family member, the royal family member, Abdullah bin al-Tahi. In the very same year, the Qatar Foundation, the fund, bought 25% in the consortium of the Northern Capital, Airgate, and that's the company that owned and managed Pulkovo Airport. Okay, it was also bailed it out. And Qatar used to be a good friend of Russia, but that friendship is gone. You know, the romantic relationship is over, and Russia is left with -1 strategic key partner. And looks like everyone is turning away from Russia. The next news comes from Uzbekistan. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz visited Samarkand, the city as old as Rome itself. Check this out. This is the official visit. Samarkand is beautiful. It's very historic. I recommend everyone visits just as German Chancellor. The president of Uzbekistan met the German Chancellor in the historic Registan Square. That's a very famous monument, the old city of Samarkand. According to the state media, Germany and Uzbekistan have concluded an agreement in the field of migration. The agreement will simplify the procedure of entry of skilled workers from Uzbekistan to Germany, and, which is very important, allow the German authorities to deport migrant criminals to Afghanistan through transit through Uzbekistan without conducting direct negotiations with the radical Taliban movement. What is it? Another Russia's strategic and key partner making deals behind Russia's back with a NATO country? With the evil West? Oh boy. Well, just like I told you, seems like everyone is turning away. And the next news comes from Turkey, and that's actually quite amusing. How do you cross a road on a pedestrian crossing in Turkey? A new method has been invented. Check this out. The thing is, baskets with bricks were installed near the traffic lights and pedestrian crossings. So the pedestrians cross the roads with bricks in their hands, and the drivers stop and give way. If the drivers don't, then simply the bricks will fly. Why? Because it is not customary in Turkey for the drivers to stop on the roads for a single pedestrian to pass. But the bricks help. The next news comes from Malaysia, and Malaysian government has asked Russia to increase imports of palm oil. It promised to include apes along with the oil. Apes, monkeys. The Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim said that the Russian market is very important for Malaysian growers and producers, and proposed to consolidate trade cooperation using the method of panda diplomacy, as China frequently does. Along with the oil, it would supply monkeys, not pandas. That's the Chinese department, but monkeys. I guess monkeys go, Malaysia. Now, on a serious note, that means one thing, and it proves my point right. Russian economy is on the decline. It has started cutting down on importing palm oil, which is a cheap alternative to butter. And most likely, palm oil is being replaced with even cheaper chemical alternatives. The next news again comes from China. China has banned its automakers from building factories in Russia. This is big and this is important. Russia's hopes to establish car production in the domestic market with help of the Chinese companies will likely to remain hopes. Beijing does not want its automakers to risk their investments in Russia. Surprise, surprise. Vladimir Putin said while visiting China this May, I quote, "We also welcome cooperation with the Chinese friends in the field of car manufacturing, where the Chinese friends are achieving clear, quite obvious successes and competitive advantages. We welcome cooperation and will continue to develop it," unquote, Vladimir Putin. The Chinese have been steadily increasing their share in sales of their cars in Russia. In August, according to Autostat, that's a company monitoring the statistics. So according to Autostat, the Chinese sold 90,000 cars in Russia. That's a record high ever in the history. But at the same time, they did not show much desire to develop production. They produce in China, they transport, and they sell, and their margin is from 300 to 400%. Moreover, it will be difficult for them to disobey their own officials. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce warned automakers in a meeting in early July about the risks associated with investing abroad. Two people familiar with the situation told Reuters, basically insiders. The Chinese companies are thriving for international expansion in order to compensate for the slowdown in growth for the domestic market. They want to expand, but the expansion is different in different countries, according to Beijing. Employees of the Ministry of Trade, referring to the government order, strongly recommended not to invest in the construction of factories in Russia and Turkey. They are not allowed to invest in India, but encouraged to expand to Europe and Thailand. And that's according to, again, Reuters insiders. And remember, in my regular live streams and Friday Crazy News, around midsummer, I said that Chinese largest manufacturer, FAW, had plans to, outsource some parts of construction to Russia, and then started developing plans for investing. And then all of a sudden, it picked up and left Russia, shut down the project of constructing the manufacturing facility just like that. And Russians were shocked, but now we understand why. The Chinese were simply disallowed by their own government. And it makes sense. Today the Chinese invest, tomorrow Russian authorities, the KGB, will simply steal it, as it does with the Western companies. Should I comment anything about this? I don't think so. It's crystal clear. Now, I want to jump to the last and the most important news of this week, and it comes from the space. I want you to see something. Check this out. Beautiful. That's exactly how I envisioned future when I was 10 years old. Humans live in peace and explore space together. Technology is developed so far that regular people can go to space. No need to become professionals. Anyone can go, anyone can fly, anyone can spacewalk. Because technology makes it so easy. Now, I feel that the future that I dreamt of when I was a child is here. Only Russia, its space agency Roscosmos, is not in this future. The USA is, China is, Japan is, India is, Europe is, not Russia. Moreover, private companies, not just countries, for goodness sake, private companies launch their own space missions. And this is the private company. SpaceX launched its first ever and humanity's first ever private research mission with non-professional astronauts who walked into space. The Dragon ship and the Falcon 9 rocket successfully launched from the Cape Canaveral in Florida after 2 years of preparing the mission. This mission was captained and sponsored by 41-year-old billionaire Jared Isaacman, who had already been in the space on the same ship. Also on board of this spacecraft were retired U.S. Air Force pilot Scott Potteet and two SpaceX engineers, Ann Menon and Sarah Gillis. It is assumed that the Easterman and Gillis will leave. Well, they did leave the ship, and they did a spacewalk. And this is exactly the future that I dreamt of. Check this out. See it for yourself. That is an amateur astronaut. That's not a professional. You can see the Earth to the left. To me, this is the triumph of human spirit.
TV1. I would say the hands-free demonstration is very comparable to the trainer in terms of the foot restraints.
SpaceX copies. And EV1, when you have time, if you'd like to return to the reach demonstration, we'll take a look at that with the live video.
Walking in space.
After that, test matrix 3 is complete. The HUD readout is 5.3 psi, 47% RH, 33.8 Celsius, and stepping back into max reach.
Copy test matrix 3.
And as you can see, top of the mobility aid.
And this is what happened later. Amazing. Oh, this is again the triumph of human spirit. Americans, I'm so glad for you. It must be very, it must feel so awesome when your country does something like that and your people do something like that. I think of Russia. Back into the USSR, Soviet space program was the most sacred thing for us. We were so proud of it. Not just proud. It's not the right word to expand. We lived for it, basically. We showed the world that Russians were the best in space exploration. First Sputnik, then first man in space, Yuri Gagarin, then first spacewalk, then Salyut 1, first ever space station, then two space stations, connecting to each other. And even after the USSR fell apart, Roscosmos was still alive. The International Space Station was a ray of hope. At last, we were not competing with the Americans and we were not threatening them. At last, we were exploring space together. And Roscosmos and Russia was part of it. And then there were space tourists, first Roscosmos was the first to bring tourists into space. And then came Putin. And Putin's friends started appearing and in places in charge of everything in Russia. Russia started to change. The all-powerful and advanced technological Roscosmos that it was on the cutting edge of human advancements, okay? The mighty Roscosmos. Let's fast forward to 2017. I don't know what happened. Well, I have a pretty good idea, but I don't know the details of what happened to Roscosmos. But I gotta tell you a personal story from 2017. I spent almost 20 years building power plants in Russia. And neighboring countries, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Mongolia. And I was in charge of business development. And my Rolodex was huge. I knew everyone in the industry. And I was talking to one very powerful woman, a power broker really, in the energy industry. And we set up a meeting. We wanted to develop a project to find investment for a very large power plant, hundreds of millions of dollars. And then she called me shortly before, and she apologized, and she asked to postpone the meeting. No problem, I did that. And then she gave me an excuse. She said, you know what, I'm going to see Dima Rogozin. She said that there would be some kind of a celebration, an honorary anniversary of some kind of space flight at VDNH, the Museum of Space Exploration, and Dmitry Rogozin, the head of Roscosmos back then, would be there, and she needed to talk to him. And I was very surprised. I said, why would you need to speak to the head of Roscosmos? And she said, what's easy? We're building an water park, a large water park, cutting edge, very advanced in, I think it was either Qatar or Kuwait, one of the, Middle Eastern countries. And she said, I need to make a business deal with him. And I was shocked. I said, wait a second. Roscosmos and water parks? What are you talking about? And she paused. She said, well, you don't know? I said, no. I said, Roscosmos is one of the leading designers and producers of water slides, equipment for water parks. And I need to have personal meeting with Dmitry Rogozin to secure this deal to supply water park equipment, to a very large water park in the Middle East. I need his blessing, she said. I at first I thought it was a joke, but then I learned no, it wasn't. Roscosmos was really producing different things, including water slides. 2017. It was done by 2017. Something went terribly wrong. I don't know when, but those 17 years were life-changing for Russia's space agency. And another personal story I have is one of my colleagues, also a person who had spent all his life in the energy business. He actually worked in Zaporizhia. He was working at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant a long time ago, back in the USSR. And we worked together, and I know him quite well. And I had a telephone call one day. He was being hunted. He was offered a job. And the job was to become the general director of a company in charge of constructing Russia's new spaceport Vostochny. And it was a very troubled project. It was very behind in time, and the budget had been used up. So he asked, "What is the catch?" He said, "Well, 20% of construction is done, and 80% of money is spent." He told them, "Well, how do you suppose I can finish the construction in time?" And they told him, "Well, we'll come up with something. We'll figure something out. Don't worry about it. Don't get scared. Just let's do it." And he declined the job, of course, and it felt very fishy. It felt like they were looking for a person to blame and sent to prison. Okay, but again, that shows you the very poor state that Roscosmos was in. And it's not just Russia is getting behind. It's not Roscosmos is getting behind. It's more and more behind every day. The Indians have a successful lunar mission now, for goodness sake, Getting behind is not the biggest problem. Russia is facing the problem of such severity that it renders space exploration non-important. Russia needs to find a way to keep existing as one country. And Russia needs to find it fast. Russia's been destroying itself for the last few years, and last 2.5 years it was very fast and violent destruction of Ukraine and itself. And in my opinion, Russia is destroying even more itself than Ukraine. And it's becoming ugly. Very, very ugly. So, Roscosmos, the space program that used to be the pride of the country, is lost. But no one even thinks about it now. It looks like if things keep on going the way they're going, Russia itself will be lost. And all we have left to remember is those glorious past days when Yuri Gagarin flew to space and Leonov spacewalked. But you know what, honestly, I personally don't want to recall those days anymore because they are very bitter. Realizing what has happened after, that's not right. Thank you so very much for watching. I'll see you soon. Carthago delenda est.